Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a case today that really gripped the Florida Panhandle.
Oh, yeah, this one's a wild ride.
Yeah, we're headed to Lake Seminole. We're back in December 2000. This devoted family man, Mike Williams, vanished while duck hunting.
Sounds straightforward enough, right? A hunting accident, maybe?
Yeah, that's what everyone thought. Alligator attack, case closed. But, and you'll see why in a minute, things are rarely that simple.
That's the thing with these deep dives, isn't it? Always more than meets the eye.
Exactly. So let's set the scene. Mike Williams, loving husband, father, out duck hunting.
A seasoned hunter, I hear.
Yep, knew the area well. It wasn't his first rodeo, as they say. But then, poof, gone. Boat found adrift, some gear, shotgun.
But no Mike.
Nope, vanished. And naturally, with Lake Seminole, everyone jumps to alligators.
Makes sense on the surface. I mean, it's alligator territory, right?
Absolutely. But there was one person who refused to accept that explanation.
Oh, I bet I know who you're going to say.
Mike's mother, Cheryl. She was adamant. No way, she said. My son didn't just get eaten by a gator.
Gotta admire that mother's intuition.
It's more than intuition, though. Cheryl was relentless. We're talking years of campaigning, letters, protests. She even got the FDLE involved.
The Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Wow, she wasn't messing around.
Not at all. And what's really interesting is Cheryl didn't just rely on gut feeling. She did her research, dug into the details.
Ah, so she was challenging the official narrative with, what, hard evidence?
Exactly. She learned, for instance, that alligators are pretty much dormant in December. They don't feed as actively when it's cold.
Makes sense. I mean, they're cold-blooded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gotta conserve energy.
Plus, and this is key, alligators are messy eaters. They leave forensic evidence behind. Torn clothing, bones.
Oh, so if there's no trace of that, the alligator theory falls apart.
Exactly. And that's where this wildlife expert, Matthew Oresco, comes in. He examines the evidence, the boat, the scene, and says, nope, no signs of an alligator attack.
So that throws a wrench in the whole investigation.
Huge wrench. And suddenly, what seemed like a simple, if tragic, accident becomes a whole lot more complicated.
I bet that was frustrating for Cheryl, though, all those years with the case going nowhere.
Oh, absolutely. But she never gave up hope. And as we'll see, that persistence would eventually pay off.
That's what I love about these cases. Sometimes it's that one person who refuses to let go who ends up making all the difference.
Absolutely. But before we get to that, we got to introduce another key player in this story, and it's someone who's supposed to be Mike's closest friend.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
This is where things take a dark turn. Remember Brian Winchester? He was supposedly duck hunting with Mike that day?
Right, the best friend.
Well, the investigation eventually revealed that Brian and Mike's wife, Denise, were having an affair.
Oh boy, that changes things.
Big time. And suddenly, this case is about a lot more than just a missing hunter.
It's about betrayal, secrets, and who knows what else lurking beneath the surface. This is getting good.
You said it. And trust me, it's going to get even more twisted from here on out.
So we've got a missing husband, an affair. Feels like we're heading into some seriously dark territory.
Oh, you're not wrong about that. And remember those life insurance policies Mike had? They come into play big time here.
Right, those were mentioned earlier. A pretty hefty sum, wasn't it?
Over $1.75 million spread across multiple policies.
Oh, suddenly the stakes just got a whole lot higher.
You got it. A fair, big life insurance payout, and a convenient disappearance. Starts to paint a pretty ugly picture, doesn't it?
Yeah, pieces of the puzzle are falling into place, and it's not looking good for our supposed best friend and grieving widow.
Nope, not at all. So, as you can imagine, the investigation zeroes in on Brian and Denise.
I'm guessing they didn't exactly roll out the welcome mat for the investigator?
You think?
Yeah.
But eventually, the pressure gets to Brian, and he cracks.
He confesses.
Full confession. Admits to shooting Mike and staging the scene to make it look like an accident.
So after years of Cheryl fighting for answers, they finally had the truth. Must have been a huge relief for her, but also just devastating to know that the people closest to Mike were responsible.
It was a bittersweet victory, for sure. But hold on, there's still a big piece missing.
Oh, right. Mike's body was never found, was it?
Exactly. So part of Brian's plea deal was to lead investigators to Mike's remains.
And did he? After all this time, were they finally able to bring Mike home?
Yes, in 2017, 17 years after he vanished, Mike's remains were finally recovered. 17 years. Cheryl never gave up hope, and she finally got to lay her son to rest.
That's heartbreaking, but at least there was some resolution. And what about justice for Mike? What happened to Brian and Denise?
Well, they both faced the consequences of their actions, but in very different ways. Denise maintained her innocence throughout the trial.
She was claiming she had nothing to do with it.
Yep, but prosecutors argued she was the mastermind, that she manipulated Brian into killing Mike.
And Brian. I'm guessing he sang like a canary to save his own skin.
Pretty much. His testimony against Denise was key to getting her convicted. She was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder in 2018 and sentenced to life in prison.
Wow, life in prison. So, justice for Denise, albeit delayed. But what about Brian? Did he manage to weasel his way out of a harsher sentence?
He did receive a reduced sentence in exchange for his cooperation, but he's still behind bars.
Interesting. I'm sure there are a lot of opinions about whether that was a fair deal or not, but regardless, both of them are paying the price for what they did.
Definitely. And while the legal proceedings may be over, the impact of this case is far-reaching.
Yeah, it makes you think about the people you trust, the people closest to you. It's a chilling reminder that things aren't always as they seem.
That's the scary truth, isn't it? You just never really know what someone's capable of.
And it goes beyond just personal relationships. This case raises some pretty big questions about greed, ambition, and the dark side of human nature.
No doubt. It's a reminder that evil can exist in the most mundane places, hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. But we'll delve into those deeper questions in a bit.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What pushes someone to that point?
Right, to cross that line, it's like, where's the breaking point?
We talked about the affair, the life insurance money. Seems like plain and simple greed was a big motivator.
Greed's definitely there, no question. But I
Yeah.
think it's rarely that straightforward, you know?
So there's more to it than just wanting the money.
I think so. These weren't like hardened criminals, right? They had lives, families, a place in the community.
So maybe it was more about wanting something different, something more, like they were unhappy with their lives as they were.
Possibly. That dissatisfaction, that hunger for something else, it can be powerful, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. So it's like the money was part of it, but maybe also this desire for a new start, a fresh beginning.
Exactly. And maybe a bit of resentment, a sense of entitlement. It's never just one thing, is it? Definitely not. It's that complexity, I think, that makes this case so unsettling.
Absolutely. You know, we look at these stories, we try to understand, but sometimes there just aren't easy answers.
Makes you realize that things aren't always what they seem. Like you might think you know someone.
But there's a whole other story going on underneath. And that's a good reminder for all of us, isn't it? To be a little less trusting, maybe.
More aware, more cautious, yeah. But speaking of remarkable people, we can't forget about Cheryl. I mean, to keep fighting for all those years.
She's an inspiration, that's for sure. Proof that even in the face of tragedy, even when it seems hopeless, one person can make a difference.
It's that refusal to give up, that determination to find the truth that's so powerful.
And it wasn't just about her son, right? I mean, she helped expose this whole web of deceit, bring those responsible to justice.
Exactly. Cases like this, they impact so many people, not just the immediate family, the community, friends, colleagues. They all lost someone that day. And then there's the larger sense of unease, the questioning of who can you trust, you know?
It shakes our faith in humanity a bit, doesn't it? Makes you wonder about your own judgment, your own ability to see people for who they really are.
It's a sobering thought, for sure. But hey, that's why we do these deep dives, right? To explore these complex stories, learn from them, even if the answers aren't always clear-cut.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, by understanding these dark corners of human behavior, we can start to shed some light on them.
Well said. This deep dive into the Mike Williams case has been, well, it's been a roller coaster. A story of betrayal, greed, and the terrible consequences of ambition gone wrong.
But it's also a story of resilience, the power of love, and the unwavering pursuit of justice.
It's a reminder that truth, no matter how deeply buried, has a way of coming to light. And sometimes it takes the extraordinary strength of someone like Cheryl Williams to bring it into the open. So thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another compelling story, another journey into the complexities of the human experience. Until then, take care and stay curious.